Carl and Damon here from Games, Brains and Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for short. And it's the big question. And the question is this. What game do you think you've played the most? Now, what I mean by that is not necessarily hours put into a game, although we can cover that to some degree.
Yeah.
But mainly the game that you think you played the most, how many times you played it through, the variety in consoles you played it through, the game you keep coming back to, even if it's an old game, because you've got some nostalgic value to, or it's been remade or remastered or something like that. That got me thinking, and this was prompted, right? This was prompted by me sitting there the other day, playing my Xbox, playing Shadow Man Remastered again, and I said to my wife, you know I've played this game on 5 different consoles now. 5 different systems, because one's on console. She was like, alright, because obviously she, sounds really boring. And now I just carried on talking. It was like, yeah, I played this on PlayStation 1, I played this on Nintendo 64, I played this on Dreamcast, I played this on PC, and now I'm playing it on Xbox. And I said, that is fucking weird.
Yep.
This game has been a major part of my life since its release back in 1999.
Exactly.
And that was quite a surreal moment. And I'm still enjoying it, do you see what I mean? So that got me thinking, I was like, God, is Shadow Man a game I've played the most? 5 different systems across many, many different years, variations on that. And I was like,
22 years, 24 years, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, what other games have I played like that many times across many different systems, And you could argue Shadow Man Remastered isn't the same as Shadow Man as it was, but it is. Let's be serious here.
Yeah.
So that got me thinking, and that's where the big question came from, where I was like, right, let's have a little talk about it. Let's talk back and forth and identify some of the games that we know we played a lot, for sure, 100%. It can't just be like, I think I've played it on this. It's, I know I played it on this console, this console. As well as the game you think you sunk the most hours into. So should we start with that one?
Yep.
So, when I think of time sinks, games I've sunk the most hours into, I immediately come to Skyrim.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's got to be up there.
See, mine's a bit difficult, because I've definitely played Skyrim. I've completed it 3 or 4 times easy, and we're talking about, 80 hours plus?
At least, yeah.
But then one of the longest games I played, which is actually quite recently, was Yakuza.
Yeah, but which one? Which one of all of them do you think you... No, but an individual game of those games. Right? So you've played a lot of the Yakuza games, but which one do you think, or can you identify that you put the most hours into?
Easily number 3.
Number 3?
Number 3 was the first one I started with. So I was new to the series, new to the game. I was crap at the mini games until I finally figured out what I was doing. So 4, 5, 6, 7, and then
0,
1 and 2. I was much more prepared and better.
Right,
so I was a lot more faster at it.
So you had a little bit more understanding
But
of
I reckon 3, I must have done 140 to 150 hours in one playthrough. Easy.
Okay.
Yeah, easy.
Okay, I thought you might say that as well. I thought you might say that because obviously any game, I could also point to Oblivion, Fallout and all them, but I don't know how much time was put into them in the same way as Skyrim. I always remember being stunned by Skyrim's 160 plus hours, etc. However, actually, I actually know 100% what is the game I've sunk the most hours into. And it's more recent than you think. Elden Ring.
Yeah.
It was Elden Ring. And my Elden Ring save file stands at around 190 hours put into that game. 190, brilliant, stunning hours. Well, I remember saying to my wife, I cannot believe I've put this much time into this game. I adore Elden Ring. Obviously, Game of the Year for a lot of people last year for bloody good reasons. But yeah, that's the current one I think of that I've sunk the most time into.
The problem is, it was obviously back in like the 90s, we didn't really...
We couldn't really record that.
So I could easily sit and go, over the course of time, I must have put in 100 hours, say, Command and Conquer.
Yeah, 100%.
Easily, or even going back to like Panzer Saga and stuff like that. We must have done hours and hours, way loads of time, And even like Final Fantasy games, they're not short games.
No, of course. Interesting then. All right, let's pick a Final Fantasy game and keep the conversation going. A Final Fantasy game that you think you've definitely sunk the most hours into.
Number 9. Yeah,
no, I don't think so. I think 9, no, because I'm struggling to point out where I would have sunk that much time into. I'm going to say, because of its size, I think 10 might actually have more time sunk into it. 9 maybe, purely based on the fact that you would spend a lot of time playing the goddamn game. The mini game, wonderful. What's it called?
The card game.
Yeah, the card game. One of the best mini games I'd ever seriously played. Oh my god, that just brings me... That's what I love about these conversation things, is it makes your mind think, and I've just thought of another game that not only have I sunk easily 100 plus hours into, but also has what is the best mini game in any video game ever. I am talking about The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which of course on the game I'm talking about in it is called Gwent. I used to think Final Fantasy 9 had the best card game. I remember this conversation with Liam, because he adores Gwent as much as I do. In fact, you can actually play Gwent, and I think he's got a Gwent deck like separate as well. But yeah, and he was like, oh no, you've never played Gwent. Until you play Gwent, you'll see. And he was fucking right. You will spend a huge amount, 20, 30, maybe more hours in Witcher 3 playing Gwent than you will anything else. That's how good that mini game is. So yeah, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, because as well it had some amazing DLC. Blood and Wine, for example, was 20, 30, 40 hours on its own. That game's super cheap. You must play that. Witcher 3 is one of the best games ever made. So, but when you think back to, let's go back to PS1 and stuff like that. Think of a game that you know for sure that you not only sunk a huge amount of time in because of its size, but also because you kept going back and playing it over and over again. Populous. There you go. There you go.
I still play that game now on my PS1. You know, so it's not PC. I played it on PC. Obviously, it's much better graphics. But I'm talking about PS1. Even now, I know that game off by heart, level by level, and I've got my same tactics every level, and I still play it now.
Basically, remaster that game for Damon, give him achievements, give him reasons to change his tactics as well, because I get that as well. Although I adored playing Command & Conquer Remastered, I really, really did. One of the more things I found as I went through it, as I realised, shit, I've got a tactic. And I can't help but do it over and over again. And I would want to maybe do it differently, but I knew my tactics worked and so on. I remember getting a comment on a YouTube video and like someone being amazed about my tactic of what I would do was build sandbags. Because basically you can't build things too far from your base. So what you'd do is you'd place sandbags away from your base, which allows you to build things and then create different sections in the map of just rows of defences. And it basically meant you were unbeatable. It also meant, for example, in the last level, Kane, the Nod, when they would target you with the nuclear weapon, would often go for your defences, so they'd often target... I don't want to destroy my base.
I know, but
do you know
go
what I mean?
for the construction yard,
Of course, go for the construction yard. But like it always worked out in our favour. So I do get the fact that it would be nice to. It's weird that game Command & Conquer Remastered is only available on Steam. Like, how has it not been a console port yet?
Yeah, I played it. I played it on, as I said, on my laptop and Steam.
Yeah, because it runs well and it's you kind of had to play it, right?
I would love for it to get released on Game Pass or Xbox. You know, it'd be brilliant. You know, but
that is a game we've definitely sunk a lot of freaking hours into.
I would love for them to an option to make it like hard, extremely hard. Like,
there is. You can make it hard, put it on the hardest difficulty.
I didn't know there was an option.
There's other difficulties. Because I tried playing it on one of the harder difficulties, and it turned out to be extremely fucking hard. Kind of like in the sense that they almost give you no room to they're on you straight away.
Yeah, because I thought it was like just a standard box set to difficulty.
No, there is off difficulty settings, so you can actually change that. I think there's a few varieties in that as well, how you can do it. It's been a while since I played it, so that's the case. But yeah, and then I think, okay, what else? And I'm like, okay, you sunk many hours into the Resident Evil games and all that, but then they were quick completion, so it's never going to amount to much in that regard. What about like super, super classic stuff? Now, there isn't going to be anything. There isn't really, is there?
I mean, I know...
It's always going to be modern games.
I know we don't... I'll be a person with a lot of like the original theme park. The original theme park was a lot.
Not for me.
But not enough. I mean, I look at maybe the GameCube, like things like Harvest Moon and Animal Crossing. You know, again, it was probably... But then that's probably only maybe 30, 40 hours.
No, I think it's predominantly in the modern era, because in the modern era is where we got big sized games, open worlds, that kind of thing. I think of city builders and that sort of stuff that we sink a lot of time into. Probably sunk more time into 2 Point Hospital than I did with Theme Hospital back in the day, because there was more to it. I think of games like My Time in Porsche is a good example of a game where I probably sunk 60 to 80 hours because it was a builder game and so on. Those are the ones that I think, yep, these are the time sinks. Dark Souls, the original Dark Souls and Dark Souls 2, they're all there. That's hours, though.
Yep.
The question is, and the big question was, the game we think we played the most. So this is where it starts. So obviously, I've kind of hinted that I think one of mine is Shadow Man. I do think that because I'm talking 5 systems across many. And that's part of the thing, there are many games that I've probably played 20, 30, 40, 50 times, but only ever got released on one console, so can't really count. I'll say, for example, in that, Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2 and 3 and 4 that I would have played untold times.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And all got like a HD, like Resident Evil 4 was re-released with HD update, so that kind of counts. But the Resident Evil 4 remake due quite soon isn't going to count because that's a different game as far as I'm concerned. Resident Evil 2, again, does it count when you have that remake? I don't think it does. It's such a different game. Resident Evil, how do you contrast Resident Evil on PS1 to the Resident Evil that was released in the GameCube? You can't. That's it. So that's why I can't really count them. So I start going, okay, well, what else? And you start looking at Nintendo. And that brings me to Ocarina of Time. And unless Ocarina of Time more than Majora's Mask, because I probably reckon, although I love Majora's Mask more than Ocarina of Time, I think that. So I think, okay, I know obviously the Nintendo 64, a bloody lot.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, but where else? And I was like, okay, no, GameCube, the Master Quest one, where they released all the games together as one, and then had a different mode in it. So that's twice. And it was like on the Switch. But that's an emulator. So is that counting as well? It's like, okay, that's 3 consoles effectively and a lot of plays. How many times do you reckon, combine all the times you played Ocarina of Majora's Mask, what are we talking here? 50 to 100?
Yeah, easily, yeah. Yeah, but again, it's so hard. With older games, it's impossible to record the amount of hours.
Well, look, don't worry about hours. Think about times.
But I would probably even say like things like Sonic 2,
Yep.
Super Mario Brothers. I played that over so many goddamn consoles.
Super Mario Bros. Though, because I would say with Super. Right, let's pick one. Right, let's just pick because I want to individualize this. Let's pick Super Mario Bros. 3.
Yep.
So that's NES, SNES, and then what?
That's it.
That's it, right? Because again, I played that on the emulator on the Switch, but that's where it ends. Super Mario 64. Okay, right. So Nintendo 64.
That's it.
And then I've got, the collection that was released on the Switch. The 3-game collections. Mario 64, Mario Galaxy, and Super Mario Sunshine. Super Mario Sunshine. Put a lot of time into it, but it's GameCube only. I played it on 2 different things. You see what I'm saying? So basically you have to break this down to that. But Sonic's a different story.
Yeah.
It's Sonic... And I would say Sonic 1 and 2, picking those 2 specifically, have had re-releases on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Certainly every Sega console, but also, obviously, I played this on my phone. I've played this on Xbox. I played this on the original Mega Drive / Genesis.
Yep.
If you want to be pedantic, I played it on Master System, although it's a slightly different game. Played it in the Sonic Jam on Sega Saturn. Played variations of it that were probably released on Dreamcast, though I can't quite remember that. See what I mean? Yep. So I do kind of that's leaning towards Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. I think joint them up, put a line between them and say, yep, those 2 there.
I mean, over the course of like the last 30 years, we've played that a hell of a lot. And I, even recently, so it's always been there. I mean, it's hard to pick a relatively, a new game now. Like, if I chose Yakuza, I can't really compare that to the Sonic because I can't compare them.
No, of course, and that's why it's almost a slightly unfair. A modern game you won't. But then, truth be told, even if in 5 years' time Yakuza got re-released, remastered, whatever, is the drive to replay those sort of games there in the same way? Because obviously it's a time sink more than an experience.
I miss playing it. I mean, I see it in the Game Pass, and I miss playing it. But I don't miss the stress it put me under because it put me under a flipping lot of stress, especially that fucking baseball game.
Yep.
But if they were released a remaster, I would definitely play it.
Right. Okay. So I thought you might be like, no.
No. I would because that game it gave me such nostalgia towards Shinju because it's so.
Well,
so
of course,
similar.
yeah, of course. But there's a game. I mean, although it's only on one system, well, 2 systems.
Yeah.
there's a game that certainly we put, but there's not enough time went into it, really. It's still Shenmue, it's still got a beginning, middle, and end.
There's somebody, I was thinking of things like Skies of Arcadia, but again, I didn't put enough time into that, I think. It's a great game, but I didn't get enough time.
Hours, though? I mean, definitely, Skies of Arcadia hours, but again, like, 2 consoles, Dreamcast, and then Skies of Arcadia Legends on the GameCube. Seriously, why the fuck have we not had a remake of that? Or a re-release? A re-release, not even a fucking remastering, a re-release of Skies of Arcadia Legends.
Ridiculous.
Specifically, ridiculous. That hasn't had anything. You said that about a lot of games. Metal Gear Solid, PlayStation 1, and would the Twin Snakes count on GameCube? I think it does, because it's basically the same game. But again, that's it. It's really, like I said, so it really does come surprising. I thought we'd have a lot more, but actually I think it comes down to just a handful. And I don't even think you can't count Shadow Man because you haven't played on the Xbox yet.
No, I've played on every console apart from actually PC and Xbox. The only two I've played.
Oh, so my experience is quite different to yours of that. Okay. Well, let's choose then. Really, I think. Because I can't really think of any more. I'm trying to look back at the classic games that we would have played in the early days, because that's the ones that are most likely to have appeared on multiple consoles over time. Doom.
Doom.
It just hit me there.
Yeah. That's a game.
Find me a console that didn't have Doom in some way.
True.
And that's everything. Is that the one? I feel like I played Doom on just about everything.
That's been. I haven't played it on Game Pass yet because I know something.
Right, I have done that. So Doom, because you're talking like the early consoles here, the SNES, Mega Drive, Saturn, PlayStation. Oh, is that where it ends? Oh, it's a lot. Doom might be up there. See what I mean? It just flew into my head there. I was trying to think of variations on genres that kind of like stood out. And Doom, I mean, Doom's up there. Sports game? What about sports game do you think you played? And there isn't going to be really any, is there?
Onside.
Onside. Oh my god! There's a sharp one from the past. Actually, I have one for time sinks in racing games. Not so much. Ridge Racer Type 4. Ridge Racer Type 4. Probably the racing game I put the most time in, maybe?
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe? Oh.
F1 2010, I think I put a lot of because of the online.
Was it really that far back, 2010?
I think it's the one where you had to get level 50 online, and it was a pain in the arse.
Yeah, I do remember thinking, what about Gears of War?
Gears of War.
You would have sunk more time than anyone into Gears of War 1. But we definitely sunk a lot of time into Gears of War 2. Don't do your whole, I want to talk about Gears of War.
I'm still hurt by it. I'll get back to it eventually because I haven't played 4 or 5 yet or whatever they are.
And we still need to go through it and co-op on the hardest difficulty as well, so there is that too. But before we get off topic, right, choose one then. I am going to say, I want to say Shadow Man because that's what I was starting with, but I think, talking it through, I think probably going to have to be Sonic and Sonic 2. I think they might be the games I've played the most because of the wide array of consoles they've appeared on throughout the years, and what would no doubt will get them again further down the line. In fact, I'm pretty sure there was just a re-release as well.
There was, yeah.
Exactly. So it's got to be them.
For me, I was torn. Coming out, I was torn between 3. I was torn between Command and Conquer, the Sonic, and obviously Populous. Now, I know obviously Populous is only 2 things, but the amount of times I've gone back to play that game.
Yeah, that's such an important part, isn't it? Yeah.
But for me, I'm going to have to, out of the 3, I'm going to choose... I was going to choose Command and Conquer, but it has to be Sonic. It has to be Sonic 2.
But then I think, your Populous argument is a strong one. We can't understate how often you play that bloody game.
I still play it now. I literally played it about 2 weeks ago. That's how bad it is.
There you go. That's our choices for what game we think we've not only played the most across X amount of systems, but also the one we've sunk the most hours in. What's yours? You know what to do. Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?